This is the Lakin Chronicles Road to Recovery podcast with addiction recovery specialist Dr. Greg Lakin. Real people, real stories, real addiction, and real recovery journeys. The road to recovery starts now.
Yes, welcome back to Lakin Chronicles. I have the joy of Ricky, an update on Ricky. We've talked a couple times before, and you and Heather, we're going to get through this addiction together, and there was a time there where I didn't think either of you was going in the right direction, and you probably weren't, but it seems like it's doing much better now. So tell me a little bit about, to catch people up, it was both opioids and methamphetamines for how long?
I think almost at least a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years. I think it was. I was in relapse on meth, and I don't know why, I was kind of in a rebellious stage somewhat for some reason, but I think I was more mad at my higher power, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I'm just being honest there.
Yeah.
And it was my own stuff, and it took me a while to realize that, but
so when you're mad at the higher power, is it, you're feeling like a victim, right?
Well, there's some situations I felt like that my higher power could have stepped in and stopped, and hey, I'm like what the fuck, but I know it was my fault, but at the same time, I'm like, why didn't you save me? It's weird to say, but
yeah.
But he's definitely stepped in now, and he was always there. He saw me through a lot of shit, because honestly, my addiction was killing me. It was killing me slowly.
What did a typical day look like for you?
It was. I would wake up and try to figure out like what was stolen, and then if I felt like shit, then I would.
Because you guys were just crashing anywhere, right?
Yeah,
or either with each other or separately, anywhere.
Yeah, we lived in a tent for months. Yeah, we lived in a tent months, and I remember we were living down in Old Town in a parking lot for about a month, I think.
Really?
Yeah, and in a tent, and actually we didn't even have a tent the whole time. It was just our sleeping bag, but we got about halfway through, and it's such a huge change. Now I know I'm gonna have a warm place to sleep, and I know I'm gonna have something to eat, and I used to only eat one meal a day, and now I eat like 4 or 5 meals a day.
Yeah.
Just putting on.
Well, and you survived by panhandling or stealing.
Yeah.
Right? You carried around a backpack, and whatever you did what you had to do. Like, what were some of the things you did?
I would for my drugs, I would panhandle. To get up enough for the drugs. But if I was going without food or something like that, I would steal food. But I wouldn't steal for my drug habit. That was years ago I did that, but I would steal for food if I was hungry.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like a rule I did for myself. I won't steal for my addiction, but I will steal if I'm hungry.
You can justify it better. And I don't even know where you steal from. You steal from like Quick Trips or where? I don't know.
Dollar Trees.
Oh, is that right?
Probably Dollar Trees, and just like Dollar Generals. It's just some food to get by.
Yeah.
But we figured out. All the soup kitchens, and just we kind of. We finally got our food stamps, but we just kind of figured out how to get by at Dolores Diner. And
weren't you telling me that a couple of the places that put people up, they don't take couples, right?
No,
they got one for males and one for females.
They split you up, and they'll put you in like this facility. And if you leave at all, then like you're kicked out for that night, or a lot of times you can get in trouble to where like they won't have you come back or something. But I remember for the longest time they had it shut down because of COVID, and I guess they opened it back up. But I think the main reason why we didn't do that is because they would split us up, and we just didn't like that period. I guess every option they had to keep us together, they were always full. So we just did it on our own. Did the tent or stay with friends.
And I was worried about you both at one time too, because it didn't look like either of you are going the right direction. And in fact, it seemed like you're only as strong as the weakest person, or the weakest moment of that person. So you guys would kind of keep each other down by commiserating, so you weren't uncomfortable enough to make a change. That's the way it appeared to me. But obviously, something incentivized you both to make a positive change, and one of those was getting out of Wichita, right?
Yeah.
And then you're rooting for Heather as well, and a happy ending with her own children, because that's always been just one of the things that kept her in the cycle. But for you,
part of it was I was angry with that, and just I don't know. I don't know what it was, but one thing I do know is my higher power, he humbled me. He humbled me to a point in which I guess before that I always made like either Heather or my job, my higher power, like my first thing. But now it's I feel like my higher power is number one in my life right now, and I think that's what he wanted. He wanted to humble me to the point, and he couldn't do that unless he made everything in my life disappoint me to the point where I was crushed, and I had to realize that no matter what, he would never let me down, and he would always have my back, and he has always. I just had to see that. So
I think you have to get so uncomfortable that you make a change. I mean, people, they get bad but not bad enough, but some people never get that chance because they get into something with fentanyl in it, or the overdose, they die. So there's a lot of people that never get a second chance or a third chance or a fourth chance. But I mean, you've always been very resourceful, and sounds like you were maybe negotiating with God, but you just had to get bad enough. And then tell me how your mind shifts, once, like, you're on Suboxone, you're on a stable dose now, you've just one twice a day. I'm on
the Wellbutrin XL, and that helps actually a lot. I don't know, it helps with anxiety and just those days. Because that roller coaster was, I mean, it was such hills, and now it's just like flatline. It's like and it's a good flatline, and I'm grateful. I was so low at certain points that I'm like, I would choose that flatline over, you know what I mean, those lows, because I mean, it felt like hell was unleashed on me. So
when you say that, what do you mean hell? You mean like from a emotional?
I like to call it the coin. Because whenever I would use, it's like a coin would flip. And like right now, it's on the good side. But when that coin flipped, it's like the bad side. And it's like, we even talk about it among other addicts. We're like, there's like this dark world underneath like society that nobody really talks about and stuff. And we call that the addiction, the game, I guess. And that's the other side of the coin. And they, if you don't fit well there, like if you fit on the other side of the coin, they notice. They're like, "What are you doing here?" And they're like, "Why are you in this world?" Like, because you don't act like the rest of us, and so it's just it's a whole like under society. It's hard to explain. It's like a black market society, and it's very real.
You're not one of us anymore now. We're not all,
I had trouble fitting in on both sides of the coin, to be honest with you. And I mean, I wasn't, I don't know why. I guess I feel like I'm more on the light side, I guess, and because I just, whenever I'm in my addiction, I do stupid things
Yeah.
to pay for whatever.
Desperate things. Yeah, and I remember you telling me in one of your earlier interviews that, there was maybe always some underlying anxiety, and sometimes you used alcohol, and sometimes it was a different addiction or whatever. But, and then maybe it was you, and there was talking about that flat effect you feel sometimes, where like all of a sudden you're off of your drug of choice long enough that you don't feel joy or pleasure or anything right now, and that's not a good feeling either.
Yeah.
But
that's hard to deal with. I mean, there's times where it is bad, and it makes me want to like drink. And the problem is when I drink, it makes me want to use meth even more whenever I drink. And luckily, Heather, she's pretty strong right now. And there's a couple times I was getting weak, and had it been close by, I would have done it. But I'm lucky enough to where the circumstances weren't like that, weren't bad at that time. So the flat times, luckily the Wellbutrin helps with that, and she always tries to cheer me up. And when she notices I'm down or I'm kind of depressed, and still, I mean, those bottoms were so low. I mean, I don't want to go back there. I'm scared.
Imagine living on the street now, as cold as it is, but.
I'm honestly scared of it. I'm scared of going back down there. I don't want to go back down there. I will do anything other than go back down there.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain.
Well, yeah, and don't forget where you were, because it's good. You can't afford to go back. But no, this is wonderful. I appreciate you're always very articulate and very good at explaining things, and I was always rooting for you. I remember one time you and Heather, I wasn't sure if you were good for each other, and I, brought each other down, but, actually she may end up saving you.
Yeah.
And so that's good too.
She took the first step, and and she's really had a good attitude, and it surprised me. I mean, honestly, I thought it was going to be me too, but she's really pulled through. I'm proud of her. I am, and it's pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, I felt like I wanted this all the time, like anyways, but I was too chicken shit to take those steps to do it. You know what I mean? And now it's happening.
No, being sobriety is a scary thing when you haven't been there for so long. So, and then. Yeah, your way of thinking has changed a little bit, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. I'm clear. I'm thinking so much more clear. And I don't always go to that, just that negative way of thinking. Like, I used to constantly just, like whenever somebody would make me angry or something, I would just, like, immediately start tearing them down in my head. Like, and now I stop myself. I'm like, oh, hold on, Ricky. Because I run into a lot of people when I panhandle, and sometimes I get mean.
You're still doing that to this day, but
I'm waiting for my birth certificate to come in the mail. But as soon as that, because I have to humble myself to do that, because I don't like asking anybody for anything, but especially that.
Although you did say you're getting more money now that you're
sober, yeah. It's like they could sense that. It's like people could sense that, and they just. I mean, a lot of people, they feel like they're like, I don't know why, but I feel like I'm like inclined to help you for some reason. Yeah. Like, and they can't explain it, and I'm like, well, thank you. You're not just helping me. You're helping me and Heather. Like, pay for our motel and food or something. They're depending on what we need. Yeah. And
so oftentimes people panhandling or smell like alcohol, or you can see it in their eyes that they're still on something, or you're just enabling their addiction basically. But they believe that you're worth saving evidently, and you're doing some of the work to do it. So well, good. Well, hopefully next time you'll have a job, and it sounds like you kind of got one lined up, and they said you're hired.
Yeah, just waiting on the ID.
Yeah, well, perfect. Yeah. All right, Ricky. Well, thanks for giving us an update. Well done.
Dr. Lakin is a board-certified family medicine doctor with an emphasis in addiction medicine and over 25 years of experience. For addiction recovery services in the Wichita area, please visit www.centerforchangeks.com or visit samhsa.gov for a national directory of resources and recovery centers in your area. You can also find these links in the podcast description. Thank you for listening to the Lakin Chronicles Road to Recovery podcast. And remember, you've got this.